A warm welcome. I'm A. Gayathree, lecturer, Department of English SF from Sitalakshmi Ramasamy College, Trichy. In this video, we are going to explore a very important movement in literary theory, that is, new criticism. New criticism mainly focusing on the text rather than author's background. It emerged in 1920s Britain. The term new criticism was first used by J.E. Bingham in one of his lectures, where he mentioned the word in passing. Later, it was popularized and formally coined by John Crow Ransom, who published a book titled The New Criticism. New criticism mainly focuses on two things: autotelic text and close reading. Close reading means a deeper understanding of the text by analyzing elements such as rhythm, meter, metaphor, theme, and word choice. Autotelic text means that the text is self contained, independent of the author's intention. The Fugitive was the journal associated with New Criticism and also the Kenyan Review. Major authors and critics associated with New Criticism are I.A. Richards, William Emerson, Ian Brooks, F.R. Lewis, Vincent and Presley, R.B. Blackmore, Alan Tate, and John Crow Ransom. William Emerson was a key figure in New Criticism, best known for his analysis of language and meaning in poetry. His book, Seven Types of Ambiguity in 1930, explored the richness of literary interpretation through works like Some Version of Pastoral in 1935 and Milton's God in 1961. He examined complexity in literature and theology. I.A. Richards' works include The Meaning of Meaning in 1923, written with C.K. Arjun. His second major work is Principle of Literary Criticism in 1924, where he introduced the concept of two uses of language. One is scientific language, another one is emotive language. Scientific language refers to the language of real world. Example, the sun rises in the east. Emotive language, language that refer to emotions, affect, or aptitude. His third important work is Practical Criticism in 1929, also known as the Study of Literary Judgment. In this text, Richards introduced two key concepts: practical criticism and four kinds of meaning. Practical criticism, a method of close reading and analyzing literature, where he studied response to text only. Four kinds of meaning. Richards identified four aspects of meaning in language. They are sense, feelings, tones, and intention. Sense refer to the subject matter or what is said. Feeling refer to the emotion or attitude conveyed. Tone refer to the writer's or speaker's attitude towards the reader. Intention refer to the process or meaning that the speaker or writer wants to communicate. The last one is philosophy of rhetoric. Ian Brooks' most famous work is The Well-Brought Urn, also known as Studies in the Structure of Poetry, in 1947. The title is taken from John Donne's poem, The Canonization. In this book, he introduced the concept of heresy of paraphrase, which means that summarizing a poem cannot capture its full dramatic and emotional effects. His early works include Understanding Poetry in 1939 and Modern Poetry and the Tradition in 1939. Brooks also emphasized the language of paradox, urging that paradox is essential to the structure of poetry and is both appropriate and inevitable in poetic expression. For example, in Wordsworth poetry, upon Westminster Bridge, the poet praises the beauty of nature, yet also shows that London, through man-made, is part of the natural beauty. In dance poetry, spiritual love and physical love are expressed together through paradox. Another important work is Keats' Helvian Historian, History Without Footnotes, where Brooks analyzed Keats' poem Ode on the Grecian Urn. F.R. Lewis, known for the Great Tradition, in 1948. He focused on moral seriousness in literature and highlighted great English novelists like Jane Austen, George Eliot, Henry James, and Joseph Carnap. And he later added D.H. Lawrence, but he excluded Charlotte Bronte and Anthony Trollope, who were not praised Jane Austen. Webster and Russell, they developed influential critical concepts, intentional fallacy and affective fallacy, stressing that a poem should be judged by its text rather than the author's intention or the reader's emotions. R.B. Blackmore, in a critic's job of work, he distinguished between two types of critics, just critics and professional critics. Just critics are casual or informal critics, not for money. Professional critics are trained and systematic critics. According to him, just critics is better than mature critics. Writings include studies in Henry James and double agents. He also emphasized the idea of language as gesture, meaning that literature communicates through form, style, and expression, not just content. Alan Tate. Alan Tate important works are The Man of Letters in the Modern World and Reactionary Essay on Poetry and Ideas. Her concept, two kinds of meaning, denotative and connotative. Denotative refer literal or dictionary meaning, connotative refer implied or suggested meaning. And her another concept is tension, intention and extension. Intention refer the inner or logical aspect of meaning. Extension refer the eternal or referential scope of meaning. John Crow Ransom works include Poems About God, a volume of poetry, and The New Criticism in 1941, where he coined the term New Criticism. Essay poetry discuss the nature and being of poetry. He distinguished three kinds of poetry: physical poetry, platonic poetry, and metaphysical poetry. Physical poetry based on sensory and material aspect. Platonic poetry based on ideal form and ideas. Metaphysical poetry blending intellect and philosophy and also feelings. Neo-Aristotelian. Neo-Aristotelian critics are also known as Chicago School of Critics. They oppose new criticism. They followed Aristotle's principle of literature. They focused on plot, character, theme, and audience effect. Main critics are R.S. Crane, Norman MacLean, Elder Olson, Richard McKeown. Main works: Critics and Criticism, Ancient and Modern, in 1952. Thank you.